Most people think character is revealed when life gives you everything. The truth is, character is revealed when life gives you nothing. Claire Montgomery never imagined that losing a wallet would become the moment that changed her life forever. It happened on a cool Thursday afternoon in downtown Columbus, Ohio. The sky hung low with soft gray clouds, and the parking lot outside the upscale shopping plaza buzzed with the usual rhythm of luxury SUVs, shopping bags, and hurried conversations. Claire stepped out of a boutique carrying 2 garment bags over one arm while balancing her phone against her shoulder. As the founder and CEO of a successful financial consulting firm, she was used to juggling 10 things at once. Her schedule rarely slowed down. Neither did her mind. She reached her black Range Rover and froze. Her purse was open. For a brief second, she thought she was mistaken. Then her heartbeat accelerated. The wallet was gone. Not just any wallet. Inside was nearly $40,000 in cash she had withdrawn earlier that morning for a confidential business acquisition. There were also identification cards, private documents, and information she could not afford to lose. Claire dropped the bags onto the passenger seat and searched again. Every pocket, every compartment, every inch of the vehicle. Nothing. A cold knot tightened in her stomach. She retraced every step through the plaza. The coffee shop, the jewelry store, the sidewalk lined with flower beds and polished benches. No wallet. No clue. No hope. 20 minutes later, standing beside her vehicle, she stared at the ground in disbelief. "Ma'am," a calm voice said from behind her. Claire turned. The man standing there looked completely out of place among the designer storefronts and luxury cars. His faded work jacket carried signs of long days and hard labor. A worn baseball cap shaded tired eyes. In one hand, he held a weathered lunch cooler. In the other was a dark leather wallet. Her wallet. "Are you Claire Montgomery?" he asked. For a moment, she simply stared. "Where did you find that?" she whispered. "Near the entrance by the fountain." He extended it toward her. Claire grabbed the wallet and immediately opened it. The cash was still there. Every stack, every document, every card. Nothing missing. She looked up in disbelief. "You didn't take anything?" The man seemed surprised by the question. "No, ma'am." "Do you know how much money was inside?" He nodded once. "Enough to matter." The answer lingered between them. Claire reached into the wallet and pulled out several $100 bills. "Please, take this. At least let me thank you properly." The man shook his head. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I wasn't doing you a favor." Claire frowned. "Then what were you doing?" His eyes softened. For the first time, a faint smile appeared. "Trying to set the right example for my daughter." The sounds of the parking lot seemed to fade away. Cars rolled past. Shopping carts rattled across the pavement. Somewhere nearby, a child laughed. But Claire could only stare at the stranger standing in front of her. He tipped his cap politely. "Looks like everything's there." Then he turned and walked away. Claire watched him cross the lot toward an aging pickup truck with peeling paint and a cracked rear bumper. He climbed inside and drove off without looking back. Most people would have forgotten him by the next morning. Claire Montgomery couldn't stop thinking about him. Because for the first time in years, she had met someone who possessed something far more valuable than $40,000. Claire Montgomery had spent nearly 15 years building a reputation around one simple belief. People always revealed themselves when money was involved. Some became generous. Some became selfish. Most became predictable. Yet the man who had returned her wallet did not fit into any category she understood. The next morning, she sat alone in her corner office on the 26th floor overlooking downtown Columbus. The city stretched beneath her in neat lines of glass, steel, and traffic. Her assistant stood in the doorway holding a tablet. "Your 9 o'clock is waiting." Claire barely looked up. "Reschedule it." The assistant blinked. "You never reschedule." "I do now." Once the door closed, Claire opened her laptop and stared at a blank search screen. All she knew was what she had seen. A faded work jacket, an old pickup truck, tired eyes, and one sentence she could not forget. "Trying to set the right example for my daughter." Most people would have accepted the reward. Many would have taken the money from the wallet and convinced themselves nobody would notice. Yet somehow the man had walked away from $40,000 as though integrity was worth more. The thought lingered with her all day. By late afternoon, she found herself driving back to the shopping plaza. The air carried the scent of fresh rain from a passing shower, and sunlight reflected off puddles scattered across the pavement. She parked near the fountain where the wallet had been found. The maintenance worker cleaning nearby glanced up when she approached. "Excuse me," Claire said. "Do you know a man who drives an old blue pickup? Around 40 years old. Wears a work jacket." The worker nodded almost immediately. "You talking about Noah Bennett?" Claire felt something tighten in her chest. Finally, a name. "You know him?" "Sure. Comes through here every couple days fixing electrical systems for some of the stores." "Is he here now?" The worker pointed toward the far side of the plaza. Claire followed his gesture and spotted him. Noah Bennett stood on a ladder outside a small bookstore. He wore the same worn jacket and carried a tool belt around his waist. Nothing about him suggested wealth, influence, or importance. Yet there was something steady about the way he moved. Something calm. She watched from a distance. An elderly woman approached him carrying 2 heavy boxes. Noah climbed down immediately. "Let me help you with those." "You do not have to," the woman said. "I know," he replied with a smile. "But I can." He carried the boxes inside without hesitation. 10 minutes later, he returned to work as though nothing unusual had happened. Claire remained in her vehicle, puzzled. The afternoon drifted by. A delivery driver dropped a package and scattered paperwork across the sidewalk. Noah helped gather every page. A young employee struggled with a jammed door. Noah fixed it in less than a minute. Again and again, he helped people without expecting recognition, without asking for anything. The more Claire watched, the more confused she became. By 6 o'clock, the plaza lights flickered on. Noah packed his tools into the pickup and drove away. Claire hesitated only a moment before starting her engine. She told herself she was simply curious. Yet deep down, she knew the truth. She had spent her entire career studying successful people. But for the first time, she found herself wanting to understand a man who had absolutely nothing to gain from being good. The blue pickup remained 3 cars ahead as evening settled across the city. Claire Montgomery told herself she would turn around at the next traffic light, then the next one, then the next. Yet she continued following at a careful distance, curiosity pulling her forward stronger than reason. Noah Bennett drove east, away from the polished office towers and luxury neighborhoods. The streets gradually changed. Expensive storefronts gave way to family diners, aging brick buildings, and modest homes with front porches lit by warm yellow lamps. The sun had nearly disappeared when Noah finally turned into a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. Claire slowed her vehicle and watched him pull into the driveway of a small white house. The home was old but carefully maintained. A wooden swing sat on the porch. Flower boxes lined the windows. One section of the roof looked newer than the rest, as if repaired recently by someone determined to make things last. Noah stepped out carrying a grocery bag and a small paper sack from a pharmacy. Before he even reached the front door, it flew open. A young girl burst outside. She could not have been older than 10. Her blonde hair bounced as she ran across the yard. Noah immediately crouched down and opened his arms. The girl wrapped him in a hug so enthusiastic it nearly knocked him backward. Claire found herself smiling before she realized it. She watched Noah hand the girl the grocery bag. The child peeked inside and laughed. Whatever she saw clearly delighted her. The sound carried faintly through the evening air. Noah laughed too. Not the polite smile she had seen at the shopping plaza. This was different. Lighter. Freer. For a moment, he looked years younger. Father and daughter disappeared inside the house. Claire remained parked down the street, unsure why she could not leave. The neighborhood was quiet. Crickets sang from nearby trees. A sprinkler clicked rhythmically across a neighboring lawn. Porch lights glowed softly in the gathering darkness. Everything about the scene felt simple, ordinary, yet somehow it held her attention more than any corporate event she had attended all year. Nearly 40 minutes passed before the front curtains shifted. Through the window, Claire could see Noah helping the girl with homework at the kitchen table. Papers covered the surface. A lamp cast warm light across the room. Occasionally, the girl pointed at something, and Noah leaned closer to explain. Then she laughed again. Claire felt an unexpected ache somewhere deep inside her chest. She had spent years chasing growth, acquisitions, and quarterly reports. Her calendar was always full. Her house was always empty. Watching that small family through a distant window forced her to notice something she usually avoided. Success and happiness were not always the same thing. A sudden movement caught her attention. The girl stood from the table and carefully carried a small stack of envelopes toward Noah. He opened them one by one. Even from across the street, Claire noticed the change in his expression. The smile faded. His shoulders lowered slightly. He stared at one page longer than the others. Then, almost immediately, he straightened and smiled again when the girl looked at him. It lasted only a second, but Claire saw it. Whatever burden he carried, he was hiding it from his daughter. The realization settled heavily over her. There was more to Noah Bennett's story than a man returning a lost wallet. Much more. And for the first time, Claire knew she was no longer simply curious. She needed to understand what kind of person chose dignity when life clearly had not made things easy. The next morning, Claire Montgomery woke earlier than usual, but her thoughts were already fixed on Noah Bennett. By 7 o'clock, she was sitting inside a small coffee shop across from the shopping plaza, watching employees unlock storefronts as the city slowly came alive. The scent of roasted coffee filled the air. Rain from the previous night still clung to the sidewalks. At exactly 7:30, Noah's pickup rolled into the parking lot. Claire checked the time. Then she checked it again 2 hours later when Noah emerged carrying a toolbox and headed toward another job site. By noon, he was repairing electrical equipment at a grocery store. By 2 o'clock, he was helping replace damaged lighting in a community center. By 4, he was back at the plaza fixing wiring behind a restaurant kitchen. Claire expected breaks. She expected long lunches. She expected complaints. Instead, she watched a man move from one responsibility to the next with quiet determination. The surprising part came after sunset. Most workers were heading home. Noah was just beginning a second shift. Claire followed at a distance as he drove across town and parked outside a regional delivery warehouse. Men and women wearing reflective jackets loaded vans beneath bright overhead lights. Noah disappeared inside and returned wearing a company uniform. Claire stared in disbelief. He was taking another job. For the next 4 hours, she watched him deliver packages across neighborhoods scattered throughout the city. Small homes, apartment complexes, retirement communities. Sometimes he walked up steep driveways carrying boxes. Sometimes he crossed rain-soaked sidewalks beneath flickering streetlights. He never appeared rushed. He never appeared irritated. Shortly after 10:30 that night, Noah finally headed home. Claire remained parked nearby as he entered the small white house. The lights in the kitchen turned on. A few minutes later, another light appeared upstairs. She expected him to go to sleep. Instead, she saw him moving around the house, cleaning dishes, folding laundry, preparing something for the next day. Midnight arrived before the lights finally went dark. Claire sat silently behind the wheel. She felt exhausted just watching him. The following morning, curiosity pushed her further than she intended. Through a business contact, she quietly obtained public records connected to Noah's address. Most of the information was ordinary: property tax filings, utility records, employment registrations. Then one document caught her attention: a recurring series of medical payments. Monthly, consistent, significant. Claire leaned closer to the screen. The payments were connected to Emma Bennett. Her chest tightened. Suddenly, the pharmacy bag Noah had carried into the house made sense. The envelopes at the kitchen table made sense. The brief sadness she had seen crossing his face made sense. Yet Noah had never complained. Not once. He had never asked anyone for help. He had never used his circumstances as an excuse. Late that afternoon, Claire parked near a small neighborhood park. Across the grass, she spotted Noah sitting on a bench beside Emma. The little girl held a sketchbook on her lap. Noah listened attentively as she showed him page after page of drawings. Every few moments he smiled and nodded as though each picture were the most important thing in the world. Then Emma laughed. Noah laughed with her. The sound drifted through the autumn air. Claire watched quietly from a distance. She had started this journey trying to understand why a stranger returned a wallet full of money. Now she was beginning to discover something far more extraordinary. Noah Bennett was carrying burdens that would have broken many people. Yet somehow he still found reasons to smile. 3 days later, Claire Montgomery found herself sitting alone inside her office long after sunset. Staring at information she could not stop reading. The city lights shimmered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but her attention remained fixed on a collection of records spread across her desk. Medical invoices, insurance statements, payment schedules. Every document pointed toward the same truth. Emma Bennett was receiving ongoing treatment for a serious health condition. The expenses were staggering. Claire quietly calculated the numbers. Even with 2 jobs, Noah could barely be keeping up. Yet there was no evidence of fundraising campaigns. No public requests for help. No loans. No appeals for sympathy. He was carrying everything himself. The realization stayed with her through the night. The following afternoon, she parked several houses away from Noah's home. Autumn leaves drifted across the street as a cool breeze moved through the neighborhood. Children rode bicycles in the distance. A dog barked somewhere beyond the trees. Everything seemed peaceful until a delivery truck arrived and dropped off several packages near Noah's porch. An hour later, Noah returned from work. Emma ran outside to greet him as usual. Claire watched the familiar smile appear on his face. Then she noticed something different. Noah picked up one of the packages and hesitated. His expression tightened slightly. Not with anger. Not with frustration. Something quieter. Concern. He carried the boxes inside. Later that evening, as darkness settled over the neighborhood, a light appeared in the front room. Through a narrow gap in the curtains, Claire could see stacks of paperwork spread across the table. Noah sat alone reviewing documents while Emma worked on drawings nearby. Every few minutes he glanced toward her and smiled. Then, when her attention returned to her sketchbook, his smile faded. He rubbed his forehead and stared down at the papers again. The contrast broke Claire's heart. He was protecting her from worries she was too young to carry. The next morning, Claire decided to learn more. Through a trusted contact, she discreetly obtained additional public information connected to the medical provider. The details confirmed her suspicions. Emma's treatment would continue for months, possibly longer. The projected costs exceeded what many families earned in several years. Claire leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. For the first time since meeting Noah, she felt ashamed. She had spent years surrounded by wealthy people who measured success through numbers on financial statements. Yet this man measured success differently. Every extra shift, every exhausted morning, every sacrificed comfort, it all pointed toward one purpose: his daughter. That evening, another discovery stunned her even more. While reviewing property records, Claire learned that Noah had refinanced the house twice during the past 4 years. He had also sold nearly every asset he once owned. The evidence was impossible to ignore. Piece by piece, he had traded away his own security to keep Emma safe. Outside her office window, traffic flowed through downtown Columbus beneath a sky glowing orange from the setting sun. Claire stared at the city below and felt something shifting inside her. She had started this journey trying to understand an honest stranger. Now she understood something far deeper. Noah Bennett was not simply enduring hardship. He was quietly giving away pieces of his own future so his daughter could keep hers. The deeper Claire Montgomery looked into Noah Bennett's life, the less sense it made. Every new discovery seemed to contradict the one before it. A man working 2 jobs should not have the educational history she found. A man struggling to pay medical bills should not have the professional record now sitting on her desk. Late one evening, after most employees had gone home, Claire remained alone in her office reviewing archived business databases. The city beyond her windows shimmered beneath thousands of lights, but her attention remained fixed on a single name: Noah Bennett. At first she thought there had been some mistake. The credentials were extraordinary. Degrees earned with honors. Professional certifications that required years of study. Awards from engineering associations. Leadership roles in major development projects across multiple states. Claire leaned closer to the screen. The photograph attached to an old industry article showed a younger Noah standing beside a completed civic construction project. He looked confident, accomplished, respected. The article described him as one of the most promising structural design specialists in the region. Claire sat back slowly. This was not the profile of a man destined to spend his days repairing store wiring and delivering packages at night. Something had happened. The question was what? She continued searching. More articles appeared. Industry conferences, design awards, interviews. Then everything stopped. About 9 years earlier, Noah's professional trail vanished almost completely. No new projects, no promotions, no public appearances, nothing. It was as though he had simply stepped out of his own life. The mystery followed her into the next day. By afternoon, she found herself parked outside a small public library where Noah had stopped after work. Through the windows, she watched him sitting beside Emma at a table covered with books. The little girl pointed excitedly at something she was reading. Noah listened with complete attention. Then he helped her solve a math problem on a notepad. Claire noticed how naturally he explained concepts. Patiently, clearly, like a teacher. Emma grinned when she finally understood. Noah smiled back. There was pride in his expression, but also tenderness, as though every small victory mattered. Later that evening, Claire spoke with an elderly retired engineer whose name appeared alongside Noah's in several old publications. The man was surprised to hear Noah's name. Noah Bennett, he repeated. I have not heard that name in years. What was he like? Claire asked. The man chuckled softly. Brilliant. One of the brightest people I ever worked with. He could solve problems that left entire teams scratching their heads. Claire felt her pulse quicken. Then why did he leave? Silence filled the line for several seconds. His wife passed away, the man finally said. After that, everything changed. Claire closed her eyes. Suddenly, dozens of disconnected pieces began fitting together. The vanished career, the financial sacrifices, the endless work, the devotion to Emma. Noah had not failed. He had walked away. He had chosen something else. As the call ended, Claire sat quietly in her office. The evening sun painted the skyline gold and amber. For the first time, she understood the true measure of the man she had been following. Noah Bennett was not someone who had lost his future. He was someone who had willingly traded it for the chance to be present in his daughter's life when she needed him most. And somehow that sacrifice made him far more remarkable than any success he had ever achieved. For several days, Claire Montgomery wrestled with a decision she could no longer ignore. Every new fact she uncovered made her respect Noah Bennett more, but it also raised a difficult question. Should she help him? And if she did, would he even accept it? The answer seemed obvious. Noah was proud, not arrogant, not stubborn, simply a man who believed that dignity mattered. The memory of him refusing a reward in the parking lot returned again and again. He was not the kind of person who wanted charity. Yet Claire could not forget the medical bills, the second job, or the exhaustion hidden behind his calm smile. One crisp Monday morning, she arrived at her office with a plan. If Noah would never accept a handout, perhaps he would accept an opportunity. By lunchtime, she had instructed her executive team to begin searching for an independent consultant capable of evaluating structural concerns at several aging commercial properties her company had recently acquired. The position would pay well, very well. Most importantly, it would be earned. 2 days later, Claire arranged for the proposal to reach Noah through a third-party management company, so it would appear completely professional. She waited. Then she waited some more. By Friday afternoon, the response finally arrived. Noah had declined. Claire stared at the email in disbelief. The consultant fee alone would have covered months of medical expenses. Yet his response contained only a brief message. Thank you for the opportunity. Unfortunately, my current commitments prevent me from accepting additional projects. There was no request for negotiation. No attempt to increase the offer. No interest whatsoever. Claire leaned back in her chair and laughed softly. Of course you said no, she whispered. Most people would have jumped at the chance. Noah had walked away from it without hesitation. The following evening, Claire found herself once again parked near the neighborhood park where Noah often spent time with Emma. The sky glowed orange as the sun slipped below the horizon. Families gathered around picnic tables. Children chased each other across the grass. Noah sat on a bench helping Emma finish a school project involving a model bridge built from craft sticks. Claire watched from a distance as Emma proudly showed him her work. Noah examined every detail as though she had designed a national landmark. Do you think it will hold? Emma asked. Noah smiled. There is only one way to find out. Together they carefully tested the tiny bridge. Emma burst into laughter when it remained standing beneath several books. Noah laughed with her. The sound carried across the park. A few minutes later, Emma ran toward a nearby playground. Noah remained on the bench, watching her carefully. The evening breeze moved through the trees overhead. For the first time, Claire noticed how tired he looked when nobody else was watching. The smile faded. His shoulders lowered. He rubbed his eyes briefly before looking back toward Emma and smiling again. It happened in an instant. The burden appeared, then disappeared, as though he refused to let her see it. Claire felt her chest tighten. She had spent years admiring powerful executives, influential investors, and celebrated entrepreneurs. Yet none of them impressed her the way Noah Bennett did. Because strength was not what she had originally assumed. Strength was not found in boardrooms or financial statements. It was found on a park bench after a 14-hour workday. It was found in a father who carried worry, exhaustion, and uncertainty without allowing his daughter to carry any of it with him. And as Claire watched Emma run back toward her father, she realized something that surprised even herself. She was no longer investigating Noah Bennett. Somewhere along the way, she had started caring about him. The following week brought an unexpected change. For the first time since Claire Montgomery had begun quietly observing Noah Bennett's life, she sensed that he knew something was different. It started on a rainy Thursday evening. Noah finished a delivery route and stopped at a small grocery store on his way home. Claire had parked farther away than usual, hoping not to attract attention. She watched him emerge carrying 2 bags of groceries and a folded umbrella. Instead of heading directly to his truck, he paused. Slowly he turned and scanned the parking lot. His eyes moved across rows of vehicles before settling briefly in her direction. Claire's heart skipped. For a moment, she thought he had recognized her. Then he climbed into the pickup and drove away. Yet the feeling remained. Something had changed. 2 days later, her suspicion was confirmed. The afternoon sky was bright and clear as Noah left the community center after finishing a repair job. Claire remained across the street inside her vehicle. Noah loaded his tools into the truck, closed the tailgate, and then unexpectedly walked toward her. Every step felt deliberate, calm, certain. Claire considered driving away. Instead, she stayed. Noah stopped beside her window. She lowered it slowly. Neither spoke for several seconds. The sounds of distant traffic drifted through the warm air. Finally, Noah smiled. "I thought it was you." Claire felt her face warm. "How long have you known?" "A while." He glanced toward the street. "You are not very good at being invisible." To her surprise, there was no anger in his voice. No accusation. Only quiet amusement. Claire looked down. For the first time in years, she felt genuinely embarrassed. "I am sorry." Noah leaned lightly against the truck beside her car. "Can I ask why?" The question was simple, honest, and somehow difficult to answer. Claire searched for the right words. "At first, I wanted to understand why someone would return that wallet." Noah nodded. "And after that?" She hesitated. The truth felt strangely vulnerable. "After that, I wanted to understand you." The breeze shifted gently between them. Leaves rustled overhead. Somewhere nearby, a lawn mower hummed in the distance. Noah remained silent for several moments. Then he looked toward the horizon. Most people stop asking questions once they know what someone does for a living. Claire studied him carefully. "You are not most people either." A faint smile touched his face. "Apparently not." For the next hour they talked. Really talked. Not as strangers. Not as a wealthy executive and a working father. Simply as 2 people carrying different forms of loneliness. Claire shared stories about building her company from nothing. About long nights and impossible expectations. Noah listened without judgment. Then he spoke about Emma. About homework at the kitchen table. About hospital visits. About learning that love often meant showing up even when you were exhausted. The conversation flowed with surprising ease. When the sun began slipping lower in the sky, Noah glanced at his watch. "Emma will be wondering where I am." Claire smiled softly. "Of course she will." He started toward his truck, then stopped. "For what it is worth," he said quietly, "I am glad you asked questions." Claire watched him drive away beneath the golden light of late afternoon. And for the first time since this journey began, she realized she had finally found what she had been searching for. Not answers. Connection. 1 year later, the first snow of December drifted gently across Columbus. The city moved at its usual pace, but life looked very different for Noah Bennett. The small white house still stood at the end of the quiet street, its porch swing moving slightly in the winter breeze. Yet something had changed. The burden that once seemed permanently etched into Noah's face had softened. Not disappeared completely, but softened. Inside the house, warm lights spilled from the windows. Laughter drifted through the rooms. The kind of laughter that comes only when fear no longer controls every tomorrow. Emma sat at the kitchen table surrounded by colored pencils, notebooks, and holiday decorations. She looked healthier, stronger. Her smile appeared more often now. Across from her sat Noah, reviewing design plans spread across the table. Several months earlier, he had finally accepted a consulting position. Not because someone rescued him, not because he asked for help, but because an opportunity arrived that respected both his skills and his dignity. His experience and talent had slowly carried him back into the profession he once loved. The transition had not been easy. There were long hours and difficult decisions. Yet for the first time in years, Noah no longer needed 2 jobs just to stay afloat. A knock sounded at the front door. Emma jumped up immediately. "I will get it." Noah smiled. "I think I know who that is." The door opened, and cold winter air swept briefly inside. Claire Montgomery stepped through carrying a tray of hot chocolate and a box of cookies from Emma's favorite bakery. Snowflakes rested on her coat. Emma threw her arms around her without hesitation. Claire laughed and hugged her back. The gesture felt completely natural now, like something that had always belonged there. Months earlier, neither woman could have imagined this moment. Yet life sometimes worked quietly, not through grand gestures, not through dramatic promises, through small acts repeated day after day. Shared dinners, hospital visits, homework assignments, conversations that lasted late into the evening. Trust built slowly. Then all at once, Claire set the tray on the table and glanced toward Noah. Their eyes met. No words were needed. Some things had moved beyond explanation. Emma returned to her seat and continued drawing while Noah and Claire stood nearby watching her. Outside, snow continued falling across the neighborhood. Inside, warmth filled every corner of the room. After several minutes, Emma looked up from her sketchbook. "I finished it." She held up the drawing proudly. Noah smiled. "Let me see." Claire leaned closer as Emma handed it over. The picture showed 3 people standing together beneath a bright blue sky. A father, a daughter, and a woman smiling beside them. Above the drawing, written in careful handwriting, were 3 simple words. "My family forever." The room grew quiet. Not an uncomfortable silence. Not a sad silence. The kind of silence that arrives when a truth is finally understood. Noah looked at the picture, then at Emma, then at Claire. A year earlier, one lost wallet had crossed paths with an honest man. Claire thought she had recovered something valuable that day. She was wrong. The money had never been the important part. What she truly found was a father whose character remained intact after life had taken almost everything from him. And in finding him, she discovered something she never expected to need herself. A second chance at belonging. Outside, the snow continued to fall. Inside, nobody hurried to speak. Because sometimes the most beautiful moments do not require words. They simply leave a room full of grateful hearts sitting together in peaceful silence.